Imprints from your past. How your past is meeting you in the here and now, through how you think, through how you feel, how your energy is, how you are experiencing, and what you are receiving from life is so profoundly influenced by your nervous system and what's being held within your nervous system, and how your nervous system has been impressioned from the totality of your story to where you are right now. I spoke in one of my previous videos talking about the evolution of our brain, and it's really important to, it really helps to understand the evolution of our brain when it comes to strong emotional reactions and how we process those. Understanding the animal brain, understanding the mechanics of the brain physiology is really, really important. 100%. Why is it that there's those strong emotional imprints that come from the feeling of threat or safety, from fear being a predominant one through our life, that the fear reflex and response, that primordial response that we have as humans that we navigate, it comes down to the animal brain, which is the oldest part of our physiology. It's the oldest part and the most predominant when it comes to this brain body, mind body connection, processing, emotion, and our evolution through that to where we are now. And it's because of its ancestral deep back in antiquity, I don't think that's the right word, but deep in the past, this part of our brain was developed, the lizard reptilian brain, and it spirals out, and it's been our oldest part of us. And that's why it's still so predominant within what we experience now. And due to our singular individual development of how we process emotion is very, very key as well. And there are environmental factors when it comes to how we develop, how we're raised, the dynamic of how we're raised, our caregivers, our birth that we process through. Then we have the unfolding of like really heavy emotional moments of being human. When it comes to, let's say, processing grief is another really strong emotion, the loss of life. And it all stems from this deeper aspect of ourselves that we struggle and we step through and we move through, and we do struggle to a certain degree, this primordial processing of emotion. We have the prefrontal cortex, which comes in, which is there to help process us. But when we go through deep levels of, say, trauma and turbulence in that respect, our prefrontal cortex actually goes offline. We go into a state of shutdown. So we go into a state of this chronic shutdown tension, which prohibits us from processing the emotion that's coming through us. And then it gets logged and stored in our memory bank of unprocessed emotion, which then gets held in our body, which then creates our story, which then intertwines with our nervous system, very much so. This very nuanced, subtle connection between our brain, our nervous system, our processing system, how we process memory, how we process these physiological, primordial, strong emotions which come from that the oldest part of us, this animal brain facet of being human. And it tells this old story. It tells this story which then plays out in our lives. How can I make this relevant to our lives? It creates this inner turbulence. It creates this inner state, an inner landscape of discord. When we get stuck in fight or flight, when we get stuck in from fight or flight and overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system, we go into then the overactivation of the parasympathetic, which then guides us into our nervous system coming into a state of shutdown. This means our energy distribution within our body is in a state of depletion. We have small room for error when it comes to our ability and capacity to cope with and handle stress. And it's from this that we generate these old thought patterns and these old beliefs which come from this discord which is happening within our energetic and physiological makeup. We have the deep sense of lack that we experience within ourselves comes from the makeup of what's going on with our nervous system. When we have a depleted nervous system, and we have a vagus, we can talk about the vagus nerve and how that gets impeded. And our vagus nerve is our main soother and communicator and distributor of resources, energetic resources within our body, within our nervous system. And it's the vagus nerve which then gets impeded along our journey. Once this starts to get impeded, and it has done, and we have that small margin of error, our battery starts to become on less and less and less. We're on like 10% now. It's naturally reflected in how we experience life. When we have that deep sense of, when we have a deep physiological, energetic state of lack, that's naturally reflected into what we will experience with our relationships, with our job, with our relationship to money, our relationship with how we can give and receive, our perception and feeling and attunement with love, and what we are worthy of receiving is profoundly influenced by this physiological state that we will find ourselves in, which is molded and adapted very much environmentally from our past and our journey up to this now moment, and how it all plays out. What are we worthy of? What do we feel? What it really fine tunes our worth? What do we feel is enough? Do we constantly feel a state of not enoughness? The feeling of feeling satisfied and enough is a very, very rare quality, my friends, and that's because we are on this fine line of attunement when it comes to our nervous systems, and really finding out what depletion means within our nervous system and how it's all playing out with things like our self-worth. The emotion of shame is very prominent here. From a depleted nervous system, where the energy distribution has been impeded from development, we will naturally feel a sense of not enoughness, a deep sense of lack of self-worth. And it's from that deep sense of lack of self-worth which then plays out with how we experience life and what we receive. Our level of discord and inharmony in all aspects of our life, whether that's health, wealth, love, or purpose, all those four factors will be profoundly influenced by this inner discord of what's happening within you right now. It's so powerful and it's so prevailing within all of those elements of your life. And when you start to really tune into and letting go of the past means re-establishing new physiological, energetic patterns which are happening within you right now. Our development, which would have been very much cemented from the ages of birth to 7, which will then continue to evolve and develop due to that first initial few years. Our habits and behaviors are very much set from that time. Our neurological pathways, which have been cultivated, will still be with us. And that impeded development creates impeded habits and behaviors, which will maybe naturally lead us into things like addiction, discord within our habits and behaviors on a very, very profound degree. I can relate to this. I went through a really deep stages of alcohol, drugs between the ages of 15 and 25. I could see my development very much was influencing or having a profound impact on how I behaved as a person, as a human being. And the generating of this story, which is all been molded from my past. So we stepping into this new horizon of understanding of being able to literally reshape the past. We reshape and let go of the past by reshaping and remolding everything that's happening within us now. We have really cool things like breath work, which can come in and completely change the landscape of our inner physiological and energetic makeup. We can actually change the development of our brain. We can actually change our fear response. We can actually lower our arousal and fear center, whereas before, due to our development, it would be in an increased state of arousal, increased state of activation, which will all add to that story that we're telling ourselves. But now we can reshape it. We can now change and influence really positively the development of our brain. We can increase neurological pathways. There is something called neuroplasticity, which is the creation and development of new neurological pathways, which then encourage new ways of being and behaving within the world, as well as profoundly changing how we feel energetically, how we feel. And going back to our vagus nerve, which is this kind of bridge between our nervous system and our internal framework, and how it's energized and revitalized, that is increased. Our vagal tone goes up, which means we are communicating totally different with our inner world. And it's from this that we start generating and creating new thought patterns, new narratives, and new beliefs, which then start to shape a whole new world. We have that journeying through that deep sense of lack that we feel inwardly due to this landscape that we are holding within us. And we now reshape it. We remold it into this transformation of feeling deeply enough. When the communication with our nervous system becomes so profound and we enter a deep state of regulation, we are entering the land of that feeling of like, I am enough. I am worthy. I am worthy of receiving. I am worthy of receiving. I'm sending you so much love, my friends, on this journey. So much love with your journey of healing, the journey of discovery, the journey of like, wow, I'm going through this right now. Sending you so much love, my friends. Take that love, and I will see you in the next video.